Brilliant. So thank you very much. Really, I'm thrilled and excited to talk and participate in this exciting webinar. And thanks to Gidi for providing or paving the way in terms of how we have to take into consideration the vendor's risk. My name is Mahmoud Rabi. I'm based out of the UAE, Dubai. And I look after security scorecard business for Middle East and Africa, and obviously Israel falls within my territory. A bit of a background that I have. So I've been security scorecard for the past 5 months. Previously, I worked for Cisco Systems for 8 years. And before that, I worked for Sourcefire that got acquired by Cisco. I do have patents written under my name for the MMS 61850 stack. So I wrote the Snort rules, which are embedded in every single Cisco firepower device. So this was back in the days when I was a techie. So today I'll be talking about, from a technological point of view, how Security Scorecard can help you to provide insight about yourself from an outside to in point of view, and also helps you to understand your ecosystem. So when I talk about ecosystem, I'm referring to your vendors, suppliers, third parties, affiliates, etc., that form your ecosystem from a business point of view. So the agenda for today, I'll try to make it crispy as much as I could, because I would like to walk you through a quick demo where I'll be able to show you some capabilities within the platform itself. So I'll be talking about an overview about Security Scorecard, the current state of threats and ecosystem, how we can help our Security Scorecard and why Security Scorecard. And last but not least, I'll talk about the platform demo by showing you some use cases. So let's talk about Security Scorecard overview as a company. So as a company, we were founded in 2013 by 2 security practitioners, Sam and Dr. Alexander, which today, Dr. Alexander, he's leading the company as a CEO, and Sam is the CTO of the company. So back then, 2013, they realized that there was no way or a consolidated mechanism that helps organization understand their external risk and how they're visible, not only from their point of view, but from their ecosystem. And also benchmarking organizations against any other organizations in the industry was a bit difficult, because you had to know the other peers within the same industry to collaborate and then agree on a mechanism where you can bench yourself against them. So Security Scorecard was founded back then to address these challenges, but then we have evolved. So today we're in 2022. If you go through the timeline of what we have done. So we've been funded by leading capital ventures companies. We achieved a milestone in 2018 by rating 1 million companies. But that number has exponentially grown in 2 to 3 years time window, where we've reached in 2021 rating 10 million companies. Today, which we can share that publicly in the trust.securityscorecard.com portal. When you go there, you see that we have exceeded the 12 million rated companies within our platform. Recently, we acquired a company, which is a US-based company called Lifers, specialized in digital forensics, incident response, and advisory. And that part is going to complement our offering as offering 360 view to organizations to understand their cyber risk from an external and from internal point of view. So let's talk a bit about the current state. So Gidi has walked you through the need and importance for knowing your third parties and why that would be crucial, if I may visualize that in a consolidated view. Organizations today heavily rely on SaaS vendors. So your data, which you own, is not necessarily hosted within your physical or virtual boundaries, and they're simply hosted within third parties. So how can you be assured that my third parties apply the right controls and countermeasures and processes that are in place to mitigate the risk and bring business back to normal should an incident is reported? So the question that lies would be, can you be assured or not? So when I look at this visual view, you see, just famous names like, you can think about Salesforce, Google Drive, Dropbox, and other technologies. And the famous SolarWinds attack, which was a POC to the world proving that supply chain based attack are doable and their impact is lethal. So it was proven to, to the whole industry that a need for technology or processes in place that helps you understanding your ecosystem is crucial. Despite the fact you might have right point products in the place, either they are within the physical boundaries or within your cloud services, but whenever your data is outside of your control, it's crucial for you to understand the cyber controls around your data. So you cannot proactively go and ask the vendor hosting your data, is your firewall up to date? What's visible as weak signals from you to the threat actors? And there must be a mechanism in a way that helps you to collaborate with them also to minimize the exposure time. And that's where we can come in and help. So also reports have shared that 63% of breaches are linked to third parties, either weaknesses, misconfiguration, and others. And also the threat actors on the other side, they are relentlessly going after low-hanging fruits and actively trying to identify the weakest links. Also, we've got shortage in the cyber space to help organizations maintain the hyper hygiene, the cyber hygiene around daily basis operations. Now, how does your ecosystem look like, if I may ask you, if you work for an organization, either an end user, a vendor, supplier, a contractor? So do you know how you're visible from the outside? Who can come and show you from a neutral point of view that these are your weak signals and you can compare them to other organizations in the same industry? That is what we do for living. So if you want to visualize and imagine yourself as you see in the screen, that's your business. But then your business has got departments. The larger the organization is, the more likelihood of more departments proliferated, more communication channels between these departments and third parties. And those third parties have got their third parties. So if I may want to visualize it more or less it looks like that. So if I want to bring colors into the pictures, where red color means you've got weakness in that channel, and green color indicates that you've got a robust security controls. From a bird view, you can simply identify the weakest link. So how can I aggregate that view in a single pane of glass? So you don't have even visibility in your fourth parties, because the infection might actually laterally move from fourth parties, which is the third part of your third parties, and eventually come and hit you. Think about SolarWinds attack and Cassia as well. So from a bird view, if I want to ask you about the weakest link, you can simply pinpoint. I'm sure you will go just after the dark red and orange that are linked together, where you can identify the weakest links within that. But let me do this for you. So from your business department's point of view, these are the weakest links. From your third party's point of view, these are your weakest links. And from fourth party's point of view, these are the weakest links. So when you identify them, you should have processes in place where you can collaborate with your departments to mitigate the risk, and also with your third parties, talking to them and collaborate in a way that can mitigate the risk and bring back business to normal in case of incidents. So how can we help our security scorecard? So back in 2013, we developed the technology, which is our rating platform, that was designed to provide instant rating for organizations. With the amount of organizations that we have rated, talking about 12 million, we're simply able to benchmark organizations against each others based on the weak signals that we see. So what we do on a daily basis, we scan the IPv4 space, we build digital footprint for every organization, and we're able to enumerate the service, fingerprint applications, and map weaknesses into that in the form of vulnerabilities, which is a neutral view. So you can think about it as a radar view with a continuous monitoring. The approach we use is non-intrusive, means we don't actively probe nor scan organizations. So we rely on seeing the internet traffic and passively able to enumerate the service and fingerprint the applications. Where in the backend, as I mentioned, we're able to map weaknesses into the applications and devices type. So this process is continuous, and we have published the mechanism that we use and the patents we use publicly, so our customers have got the rights to know how the rating is done. So talking about Security Scorecard suite, the modern suite helps you with your modern business to help you having an effective risk management processes. So the flavors that we offer are around first security rating, which I will explain in details and show you a demo. The second component is called Atlas, which is an embedded module within our platform that helps you sending questionnaires to your third parties from a single platform by avoiding the usage of emails and Excel sheets and sending reminders. So that platform is designed to actively help you collaborate with your third parties using embedded instant messaging modules, for example, helps the third parties and your suppliers and vendors and supply chains to communicate back, put attachments, answer the questionnaires, and you're able to monitor that from a single point of view. Also, we're not able to provide security on our own, and that's where we've got the marketplace that helps you to operationalize the product in different flavors to improve your day-to-day cyber hygiene operations. And of course, the professional services where we bring our expertise, even through the company that we acquired, which is Lifers, to help you understand your ecosystem better, using the best practices that we have developed for the market, so you can leverage those and build blueprints and right processes in place. So let's take a deeper look at how the rating is done. So we've got sensors deployed across 45 locations globally. So we crawl the internet, and as I mentioned, we crawl the IPv4 space. And based on that, as data collection, we're able to fingerprint applications and get vulnerabilities, leverage also other source feeds as part of our collection process. Once that is done, we're able to attribute all the IP finding and services into the organization's digital footprints and map them into domains. So the normalization of the data is done in the back end. Now, once we do that in terms of IP attribution and data collection by mapping it into fingerprinted applications and weaknesses and signals, we are able to factor all the findings into which we call grateful risk factors. So there are 10 domains or 10 factors that we use to reflect the organization cyber exposure from a single pane of glass. So when you look at the factors, we look at application security, we look at network security efficacy, endpoint security by monitoring the traffic that leaves the organization, but initiated from outdated operating systems and outdated browsers. So we look at other things like DNS security, best practices, patching cadence, how the organization responds into visible external CVEs. So we take into consideration that math to reflect how effective the organization is in the patching cadence, and obviously the IP reputation. So each factor out of these 10 factors, based on the factored in signals that are normally leveraged by threat actors, evasion and exploitation techniques, all these signals will result into what you call grades that are universal grading system that anyone can understand from an alphabetic point of view and colors point of view. So when we look at top of the screen as an overall grade, we assign A for organizations that match the criteria from an outside in point of view. And F means the organization cyber exposure is broad or wide, and because of the signals that were factored into the risk factor underneath. So that's how our rating system works. And then we bring it all in a single pane of glass, as you see in the screen. We're able to go back in time up to 12 months and help you to understand how you've been performing in terms of security posture, rating, and also benchmarking, because since we have rated 12 million companies, but we see every single domain outside in the world, we're able to benchmark yourself against companies in the same industry based on the industry average. So our vision is to have every organization in the world using Security Scorecard to make smarter, faster, strategic business decisions. Now, going back to the grading system that we follow, based on a study that we've done for 3 years collected data. So we applied our data analytics and we came up with a report And the report was interesting and surprising, but it was realistic. So the report was based on 99 rated companies. So we have looked at them and we've seen that companies that were rated with F, their likelihood of them being hit by an attack or getting breached or reported incident was 7.7 times compared to companies that were in A grade. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're in A grade, it does not mean that you have a silver bullet and you're secure. It's not the case. However, the way you're visible from the outside in is way narrowed from a threat actor point of view compared to companies that are in F. So this, data does not lie. This is what we have collected. And we could see that organizations that got breached, when we looked at their historical scoring records, we have seen that they've been in F for a while, and that's where threat actors leverage the weaknesses based on the signals that they have seen, and they infiltrated in, but then ISAs and other suspicious/malicious behavior started to surface in a later stage. So from an ecosystem point of view, the grading system that we have in the previous screen, by the way, does apply into your organization as a self-rating, but also it applies in your ecosystem. So today, if you build a portfolio, which you call it portfolio, by the way, that comprises of all the companies that you work with, think about suppliers, vendors, etc., etc. We can bring them all in a single pane of glass where you can see based on the color I mentioned. So right-hand side, A means they are in good shape in terms of cybersecurity posture, and left-hand side, it means they move towards orange and red all the way, that they've got a broad cyber exposure that threat actors could leverage. So your ultimate objective as you being part of this ecosystem is how can I move the vendors, suppliers, contractors, everybody I work with from the red side into the orange and eventually green. So we've got embedded module within the platform that helps you to propose a plan, and each plan action can refer to the platform description and remediation actions that are predefined. We're also able to identify out of the box your third parties that your business is connecting to. So this nice view shows you how third parties, the third parties that are discovered, and the fourth parties as well, which are the third parties of your third parties. And also we provide a collective rating for all of them. And from this bird view, you're simply able to pinpoint the weakest link. So you can see, okay, my red portion is this, and what vendors from my third parties and fourth parties are connected to. So you can put them in portfolios and closely monitor them based on the 100+ signals that we monitor, which I will show you in the demo. Now, in a summary from rating point of view, so our global sensors help us to crawl the internet. The sinkholes that we have are the data sources, and we're able to identify 50+ billion vulnerabilities and issues on a weekly basis. And this is being reported in the website, the trust.securityscorecard.com. So we transparently communicate the findings to the world and the mechanism and methodology we use for the deep dive. So our patent capability helps us to crunch the data with machine learning algorithms, where we are able to link the attribution into the organizations and factor in all the signals that we see from the outside. And with that being done, as I mentioned, we've rated 12 million companies. And in the past 9 years, our customers have got access to that through the API that are embedded within the platform. So what use cases you can use within the platform to help you address your business needs? First, the mergers and acquisitions. So if you are in a situation where you want to merge with a company and acquire a company, the financial element of the company and the visible reputation is not the only factor, because you may want to consider the cyber element of it. How that company has been exposed or effective in its cybersecurity posture. You can rely on their feedback and inputs as a reliable source. However, you need a neutral view that helps you understand how that company has been looking like. Probably they had breaches, they had glitches, they had dips, and it is your right when it comes to merging with a company or acquiring a company to provide such insight. Regulatory compliance, it's crucial. And Gidi has touched on this aspect. So I want to know that the organization I'm doing business with, are they compliant with ISO 27001, with HIPAA, with PCI DSS, and others? So you can rely on predefined questionnaire modules available to link the visible external signals, which we call weaknesses in the digital footprint, into international frameworks. And with that, you can collaborate with the organizations that you're not compliant with this international framework, and I want you to do this, and I can help you getting that done. But also you can bring, or you can customize your own sort of compliance policy. Upload the questionnaires, customize it in a way that you check what signals are triggering my own questionnaires from an external point of view. The vendor risk management element, it's another use case where you can monitor the third parties you work with, and also leverage the embedded security questionnaire module, which is called Atlas, to manage the risk by collaborating with the third-party cybersecurity teams, compliance, data protection, and others. The executive level reporting is another use case that we use. If a CISO or a business decision maker from a cybersecurity wants to know, how are we visible to the external world from a threat actor point of view? Is my digital footprint changing? What is the rating? How can I benchmark myself against others? So we provide that to our customers. So when you look at the type of the customers that have been leveraging Security Scorecard, we've got 9 out of 10 banks globally using us, plus 10 plus top insurer companies and highly known names that you see in the screen using us. So let's talk a bit about Atlas. So Atlas is the security assessment tool that helps you build your own questionnaire and communicate it with the peers that you're working with by simply avoiding the usage of emails and Excel sheets and sending reminders and others. So the way it works is simple. You launch the portal. You can use the predefined international frameworks or uploaded previously questionnaires, or customize your own by writing them down or upload an Excel sheet. And then you can cherry pick and choose how you want your peers to respond into your questionnaires. Is it a multiple choice? Is it a mandatory option that they have to select? Is it options that they have to go through? And you can monitor the progress of the question and then collaborate with them to make sure that they're aware of the risk based on the questionnaires that you sent. Could be relevant to vulnerabilities, could be relevant to misconfiguration and others. And obviously we cannot, as I mentioned earlier, do everything on our own. That's where we have built our marketplace that comprises of 55 plus vendors and more to come going down the line. So you can leverage such technologies to operationalize the product. Means we integrate with Slack, with Jira, with Microsoft Teams in case of an incident reported based on predefined workflows. The workflow is going to be kicking in the peering technology we integrate with the likes of Microsoft Teams that would basically create a team space and invites all the stakeholders to resolve the issue. Same applies to ServiceNow, same technologies, the likes of Splunk, IBM QRadar, and others. So why Security Scorecard? You know, some selection criteria relies on third-party neutral view of the vendors. In the Forrester Wave 2021 Q1, we were leading the pack based on the Forrester Wave in the risk rating platform. So other competitors or players, if I may say, were part of that report, but we are leading the pack in terms of the vision and the ability to execute as well. Now, also based on Gartner Customers' Choice feedback, we've been rated with 4.6 based on the customers in North America that they've been using us. So in a nutshell, why Security Scorecard? We've rated 12 million companies. We transparently and openly communicate our grading methodology and how we collect the signals and the frequency of the signals collections. We maintain a 360 view of the organization's risk by combining our workflows and third parties and also APIs. We have 55 vendors that are part of our marketplace that helps you to operationalize the product and also other crucial factors that you might consider. Now, with that being said, let me just jump into the demo and show you how that looks like. Let me just close this and then I will go to the demo, right? So this is the landing page of our security scorecard rating platform. So in the platform, they've got tabs and embedded widgets. So widgets that show you the total number of companies that you're monitoring. And of course, this is for security scorecard and demo purposes. But ideally for an organization, your vendors could be 20, 50, 30, 100, 200, it depends. But all of them would be reflected here. It will show you the overall average for the organization's rating based on the number as well as the grade. And also shows you here the breakdown of the organizations that are part of your ecosystem, which you are closely monitoring. How many of them as a proportion falls into A, B, C, D, and F. And as I explained, the colors, A means you've got a good cybersecurity posture, well controlled, and F means you've got an exposed one and you may wanna check it further. And of course, the rating shows you your current rating for your organization. Now, let me just type in here. The way it works, you simply just search based on a domain name for the company. So if I type Intel Corp, either you put a domain or the company name, and that's going to populate based on the findings that we've seen the domain. So if I select Intel Corporation, that will load up immediately the scorecard for Intel, and it will show just shortly all the score factors that we have collected. So their score is 96, means they're in good shape. There are 540 companies or organizations that monitor Intel closely, and they're using security scorecard. Down the line, we see all the domains that we monitor closely and based on the signals that we find within each domain. So these signals are relevant to the network security, and we've got high severity, medium, and low, and also informational signals on the right-hand side that organizations can leverage and see closely. And from here, you can also pivot to each signal that got triggered. So Intel has got expired certificates. There are 98 ones. And when I click into it, it provides description about this triggered issue, the risk, and the recommendations. If I scroll down, we should be able to see the involved IP addresses that carry the expired certificate along with the SHA-256 and the last observation, along with the evidence. So that's just an example how we can pivot through the issues that are part of the score factors. And same applies into others. For example, I can look at the patching cadence, no visible CVEs from the outside, but I can just check high severity CVEs patching analysis to see how Intel has been responsive to reported CVEs. So in the last 180 days in the screen, 38 vulnerabilities have been visible and 35 of them were rectified or addressed. So such insight is really crucial. And when you have a license for the platform, you can literally search for any organizations in the world without any limitation. Now, also you can look at historical records about that organization. You can go back in time up to 12 months to see how Intel has been performing in the last 12 months. Now, this curve represents the score for Intel, and the blue curve represents the industry average that's compared to Intel. So you can benchmark yourself from this point of view based on an industry average. You may notice this dip based on a result or based on a triggered incident. So this represents breach. So as a penalty, when a company reports a breach relevant to its digital footprint, they dip 20% as a penalty, and it takes time for them to recover when they rectify the issue. But the breach is, you can access it here, or you can see it under the incidents. Now, also you can select by going back in time, a specific timeline, and go through the issues that were found. And these issues resulted into contributing into the overall score for Intel. Very handy, very simple. Now, issues, you can see them here. but in the previous scaling, they were categorized, but here they're not. Now, if I've got these issues like outdated browsers, and each one has got an impact, and that this impact contributing to the overall score. Now, if you fix all these issues or part of them, what would be my score? Now, we can propose a score plan by simply clicking on that and say, you know, I can customize this. And if I just drag and drop the issues that have been reported, assuming I will fix them, what would be my new score on the right-hand side? So we're recalculating, and if you fix these 3 issues, your score is going to jump into 98%. So the company proactively would know what would be the scoring after they fix the issues. From a compliance point of view, and this is really cool. So we got the preloaded international frameworks that you can load up, the likes of ISO 27001, and simply you want to see the triggered 18 issues within that questionnaire is mapped into what questions within the ISO 27001 for Intel. And there you go. So all these reported issues are mapped into this particular module question. And if you scroll down the line, you're able to see the rest of them. Right? You know, the network shall manage and control to protect information in the system and applications. But we've seen an FTP service. If I click into it, it takes me back to the issues, and I'm able to see the FTP issue involved evidences, IP addresses that are part of the digital footprint for Intel. So I spoke about the digital footprint within Intel, and you can simply scope it here. By looking at the geolocation of that, the darkness represents the density of the IP addresses and domains. You can see the breakdown of each one of them. Also, you can leverage the IP addresses filters to pinpoint and build custom scorecards. So if Intel wants to create their own custom scorecards for US or for Middle East or for Asia Pacific, they can build those filters and just create digital footprints based on locations or based on IP range, CIDR, domains, and others. The automatic vendor detection, which I explained within my slides, is a capability that allows us or allows the users for the platform to see their third parties they're connected to, and the third parties of the fourth parties, which would be, and the third parties of the third parties, which would be the fourth parties. Now, from here, you can simply see the weakest link in your third parties, and I can click onto it, and I can see my weakest link. And same applies, by the way, to the fourth parties as well, where we're able to see the fourth parties. And from here, we can simply see the relation, like, you know, Bing or Azure, how Intel is connected to Azure. You can see the logic. So Intel is connected to Azure, and Azure is connecting to all these vendors. So a weakness or a weak cyber posture of any of these could potentially come to Intel through Azure as a weak link. So that's called the automatic vendor detection. And of course, we've got the hierarchy of the organization that we discover and build. So you can see all the holding companies that are part of this. So if I search for Microsoft, we should be able to see LinkedIn, GitHub, and others. So this is from a single entity point of view. However, we do have, for example, the concept of the portfolio. So if I just go, you know, these are portfolios that you can build to monitor your suppliers, your vendors, your third parties, and you can cherry pick any one of them and just look at, for example, if I choose 2019 Middle East companies that participated. So we created a portfolio which comprises of many vendors that were part of this portfolio. And then we can see a bird's view of how that portfolio looks like. Just loading up, should not take that long.
Mahmoud, are you with us? Just a minute, he will come back. Hi, Mahmoud, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. Apologies, for some reason I got disconnected. I don't know why. Maybe I was hit by a ransomware. Anyway, so can you see my screen again?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, brilliant. So over here, I just loaded the portfolio that represents participants for the Gartner Summit 2019, and we're able to check all of them from a single point of view. And then we can have an overview about these vendors in terms of worst performers, most critical issues, and most common issues. So you can pivot through each one of them. And going down the line, I can see this digital distribution based on the risk factors that check each organization cyber risk based on the visible external digital footprint. But what's handy is here. If I go to companies, I can filter them based on this filter. Let's say I want to see how many of them has got the Log4j vulnerability detected. I'm just clicking there. So we're able to see, well, none of them, that's great. But let us see, for example, organizations that have got the GoDaddy certificate. Okay, probably none of them. But anyway, so the point is there are 100+ signals which you could monitor that are relevant to high severity. So if I choose, okay, which one of them has got a high severity CVE, you can simply put it here. You can search for things like RDP service. You can search for file transfers, certificates, weak ciphers being used, signals relevant to malwares, ransomware activities, botnet interactions, and so on. So you can also build workflows that would proactively notify you in the case of reporting these issues. So I hope with this, and of course, reporting is another aspect or another side of the equation where we are able to provide a board summary, comparison against any company so you can benchmark yourself, how companies are trending, benchmarking based on the last 30 days or a given time period, performance, portfolio trending, what are the findings, what has been rectified and others, triage, CVE search, and ransomware analytics. So these two components will be launched soon. So with that being said, I think I'm just right on time. It's 2 o'clock. Apologies for the glitch I had. I think there is a question that says how or what determines the individual score rating in a scorecard. So it depends on the signals that we monitor. So when we look at, for example, if I go to salesforce.com, for example, we simply look at the scorecard itself for that. And underneath each factor, we look at the signals that are reported. So we actively monitor 100+ signals that contribute into the overall scorecard of any organization. And when you saw on the portfolio, when I was just going through that, those signals are handy. So you can basically search for any to check if any organization has got them. So these are the signals for the network security. These are the signals for the DNS health. Company doesn't have SPF records and others. These are the signals for the patching cadence, end of life product, end of service, endpoint signals, outdated browsers, weak outdated operating systems, IP reputation, and others. But what I would recommend you to do, if you go to trust.securityscorecard.com, that portal shares with customers or anybody the way that our rating is done. So with that being said, I would like to thank you for your patience. Apologies for the glitch I had. And if you have any question, if you don't want to share in the Q&A, happy to take it verbally if you want to ask over here.